Okay, so I'm just trying to show the history of the church since Jesus, from the testimony of Jesus, and a little bit prior, because it's Babylon has fallen, have fallen. The empires have tried to take over in the worship issue a few times. Even right after they came out of Israel, they tried to make an image. But and I'm just here in the beginning. I'm going to start off quickly because we obey half of these commandments. Do not kill, do not steal, do not commit adultery, do not bear false witness, right? Do not covet. But we forget three of them. Remember my Sabbath and keep it holy. And do not make any other graven image or likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or is in the earth beneath, or what is in the water or underneath the earth. So I just want to clarify that, because this becomes lawless in the end when God says this lawlessness, because we already don't keep the Christian church the day of God, and we're going to worship something, an image, right? Like the graven image. So I just want to show you the history of the church a little bit here. So we can see that Rome, being the last beast of Babylon, has come. So who changed Sabbath to Sunday?
Roman Emperor Constantine I, according to Wikipedia, on March 7, 321. However, Roman Emperor Constantine I issued a civil decree making Sunday a day of rest from labor, stating, "All judges and city people and the craftsmen shall rest upon the venerable day of the sun."
Right. Okay, so in 321 AD, after death, for Jesus said, the disciples asked him, "For how do we know the time of the end?" And Jesus says, "For her iniquities are already at work." So Babylon to Rome, it has been mankind that has been always worshiping. They've done it for centuries, but here they're going to do it again, and he tells you how they will get control. So he changed Sabbath in 321. He made it a law, I believe. And so in Revelation 17, the very end, he says, "And that woman that thou sawest is that great city that ruleth over the kings of the earth." Revelation 17, the end. So let's just ask Google, so that it's not just coming out of my mouth or the Bible's mouth, but also Google's mouth. Who is that great city that rules of the kings of the earth?
Babylon. According to Wikipedia. According to the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, the characteristics ascribed to this Babylon apply to Rome rather than to any other city of that age. As ruling over the kings of the earth. Revelation chapter 17 verse 18. B. As sitting on 7 mountains. Revelation chapter 17 verse 9. C. As the center of the worlds.
Right, so even Google will tell you that Rome fits that last beast applied to Babylon. That means Babylon has fallen, It's fallen a few times, but Rome, being the last beast, will fall twice herself. So if we look at, right, at the very end of 17, "And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which ruleth over the kings of the earth." It is Babylon, right? It is Babylon. So if Rome was the last beast, being dreadfully great, to come to change times, dates, and laws in Daniel 7:25, sorry, then uh, then sorry, I had a call, my daughter. But the Chronicle, here, let's see, I'll just play it for you. Who killed Jesus?
According to Wikipedia, in the canonical Gospels, Jesus is arrested and tried by the Sanhedrin, and then by Pontius Pilate, who sentences him to flagellation and finally crucifixion by the Roman Empire.
Right, blood and martyrs of Christ by the Roman Empire. Right, she was filling her cup already in the early Christian church in the early mid 300 AD. In the early mid 300 AD, she is wow, you get distracted. It's amazing. She starts to fill her cup with the blood of the saints in the early Christian church. And so then you ask, why did the apostles die?
According to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the apostles were killed during a time when the entire church was being persecuted. Nero, a Roman emperor, was the first to make laws to exterminate Christians in about AD 65. Under his reign, thousands were cruelly killed. A second round of persecutions began in about AD 93 under Emperor Domitian.
Right, all the disciples were keeping God's law. They didn't change it to Sunday all of a sudden. They all kept Sabbath and honored it. And already in 65 AD up to 93 AD, they were starting to kill the Christians. And they called them Christians because they kept God's law, and they killed the Jews with them because they all knew that they had killed the Messiah. But Rome wanted to stamp out the remnant of that seed. And it is amazing through the Dark Ages, right? When did Rome become a church?
According to PBS, in 313 AD, the Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, which accepted Christianity. 10 years later, it had become the official religion of the Roman Empire.
Right, so the official religion of Babylon becomes firm, and the blood of the saints already by 13 AD had spilled tremendously. But Babylon has fallen for 1260 years. Do not be ignorant of this one thing, brethren, that one day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like one day. So for 1260 years, she filled her cup with the blood of the saints. And for the last 42 months, the last 3.5 years, she will do it again. She will come after those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus. And it's just 3 times in Revelations, it talks about the dragon comes after the woman. So, okay, so then in Daniel here, he says, it says a few things actually, and I can't get into all of them, but I just want to show how the climate is going to be affected here, because they want to worship the sun, the waters, the heavens, the earth, and the seas through Rome, not through God anymore, because God says, with a loud voice, worship me that made the heavens and the earth and the seas and the fountains of water, right? But in his estate shall be a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. Well, I would guess that's carbon tax. And Rome is pushing it. She is preaching climate, 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 right? And in his estate will divide, okay, I'll keep going here. And he will be against, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, right? And the king shall do according to his will. This is the last beast of Babylon that had the deadly teeth like iron, but did live. Here is the beginning of the Dark Ages, I would guess, and it's going to be the same in the end. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against God of gods, and shall prosper till indignation has been accomplished. And that's interesting, indignation. That's the falling away, like the great falling away, right? She has made them drunk with the wine of her fornication. Right? She has given them different doctrine to lead them astray. She has deceived all nations, right? And neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor desire women. So what's Catholic Church filled of? Homosexuality. Neither regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate he shall honor the God of forces, which is climate, wind, water, rain, earthquakes. They will in his estate will honor the God of forces, who his fathers knew not, with precious stone, and he will divide. It just fits perfectly. And you go to the end. I can't read it all. It will take too long. And he shall plant his tabernacles of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain, yet shall come to its end, and none shall help him. And Babylon has fallen. You'll see later on that he gets a deadly wound, and they're only in control of the Vatican. but he will plant his tabernacle between the seas. Well, Rome is planted in between the seas. And what's interesting, I always laugh, because it says that they will trample on them with their foot. It's interesting that Italy is a sea that looks like a boot, eh? That's a little bit off topic. I'm trying to keep it shorter, but I always talk too much. Yeah, that's interesting. They're between the seas, right? So now we're getting started into the you were a heretic of keeping Jewish law, which was not Jewish. It was God's commandments. But when did Rome enforce Sunday?
According to Wikipedia, crucifixion was abolished for reasons of Christian piety but was replaced with hanging, to demonstrate the preservation of Roman supremacy. On March 7, 321, Sunday, which was sacred to Christians as the day of Christ's resurrection and to the Roman sun god Sol Invictus, was declared an official day of rest.
Right, so he is telling you right there, Roman sun god Solus, and was declared the official day of rest. So here Babylon now has changed times, dates, and laws. She has led men away from Sabbath. She filled her cup with the blood of the saints and the martyrs through the dark ages. For the times, and the dividing of times for 42 months, 42 centuries here, she filled her cup with the blood of the saints and got rid of what? Lots of people tell me Sabbath is not in the New Testament, but here it is in Mark 2 at the end of Mark, and I can't read everything, so I'm just picking out. But he said unto them, Sabbath was made for man, and not man for Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is also the Lord of Sabbath. So if we are the bride, and he is the groom, and the Lord and the Son of Man, which is Jesus, is Lord also over the Sabbath. That's why it's always about fornication. He's not talking about sex, that all the kings of the earth will go and give her a good hammer. He's talking about that we have been made drunk by the wine of her fornication. That we believe that it doesn't matter what day, that fulfilling in the church of Laodicea that we are lukewarm. Because it says, fear God who made the heavens and the earth and the seas and the fountains of water, right? But we're lucky where I live. We live in the Protestant Bible Belt, but many of them deceive. I'm sorry, so have I for many years. But the Son of Man is Lord over Sabbath. That's why he says that we are the bride and he is the groom, and do not be married, do not commit adultery with her, because he says the kings of the earth will commit adultery with her. Well, it's not. And they will fornicate, and they've been made drunk by the wine of her fornication, because she's a woman now, right? Okay, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked again, but so then you should see her start to fill up the cup of the blood of the saints, right? I get a little bit too ADD. What was the crime of a heretic? What was the crime of a heretic?
According to History Extra, heresy was an opinion about the teaching of the Catholic Church, which was condemned by the Church as inconsistent with it. From the early 11th century, many people accused of heresy were burned at the stake as a result. In 1022, people who were considered heretics were burned for the first time since antiquity.
Right, so already by the 11th century already, she is filling her cup constantly through those centuries, hundreds of years, and she is just filling her cup with the blood of the saints and the martyrs of Jesus, right? And it's all about an opinion of the Catholic teaching, because she wants to enforce her law, Rome's law, Babylon's law, right? Where we're worshiping Horus and all those and Mother Earth, right? And we're coming down to that. They are lukewarm already. Yeah. So then it started to turn around. When did the Protestants protest the Catholic Church?
1517. According to National Geographic Society, Martin Luther at the Diet of Worms 1521. Martin Luther, a German teacher and a monk, brought about the Protestant Reformation when he challenged the Catholic Church's teachings starting in 1517. The Protestant Reformation was a religious reform movement that swept through Europe in the 1500s.
I actually gave this one wrong here. I said when did the Protestants, and I did why, but it gives you the same thing, that Martin Luther came out and said in his thesis that you are not the Holy Father, God's day is Sabbath, and he started the Protestant Reformation. But it was hard for the Christian church to get the words right by then, because I mean they didn't have a text, or today knowledge has grown rapidly. It's amazing what you can learn, but they couldn't do it in those days, so it had to come. And he did repent and divorce the whore, but many kept her as an adulteress. But it's my opinion. Okay, when did the Catholic Church lose its power?
According to World History Encyclopedia, even so, the Church repeatedly crushed dissent, silenced reformers, and massacred heretical sects until the Protestant Reformation, 1517 to 1648, which broke the Church's power and allowed for greater freedom of thought and religious expression.
Okay, so here through Europe already in the late 16, mid 1600s, they are already starting to get they're starting to fight back, because they can see this woman, this church, this whore is just sinful, and that is because she is not under God, right? So they're starting, they're really starting. But I want to show you that I'm going to show you about King James, because this is the Reformations. When did King James finish the Bible?
According to History.com, bringing the Bible directly to the people. Published in 1611, the King James Bible spread quickly throughout Europe. Because of the wealth of resources devoted to the project, it was the most faithful and scholarly translation to date, not to mention the most accessible.
Catholics wouldn't let anybody go back then. You had to ask them and they would interpret it. But King James went straight back to the scrolls that the disciples and translated it word for word with the best that they could. They spent a lot of time. They wanted to know, because so in 1611 he finally finishes writing it. But let's just look at something else. When did the Catholic Church try and kill King James?
According to History.com, contents. The Gunpowder Plot was a failed attempt to blow up England's King James I and the Parliament on November 5th, 1605.
You know, so November 5th, 1605, they tried to blow up Parliament where King James was, because they were starting to rewrite the Bible. And the Gunpowder Plot theory, they made a video or a movie of it. It's called V for Vendetta, if you've ever seen. Watch the beginning. He talks about that they're going to go against the Protestants or the colonists that came against them a couple hundred years ago, and that this is their time to just watch the beginning and listen to the words very closely while he's talking, and you'll hear the whole plot back to get remember the 5th of November. But anyways, I can't get too involved, but we'll keep going. So remember, 1605, they tried to kill him. Why did King James rewrite the Bible?
According to History.com, in 1604, England's King James I authorized a new translation of the Bible aimed at settling some thorny religious differences in his kingdom, and solidifying his own power. But in seeking to prove his own supremacy, King James ended up democratizing the Bible instead.
Right, but in 1604, he started writing, and you just seen that in 1605, they tried to kill him. The Jesuits, the Catholic Church. Why did the Catholic Church try and kill King James? Gunpowder Plot theory. Right. So they've been trying to stamp out the remnant of that seed for many years, but the Protestants gave the church, Rome, a deadly wound by the sword. They said, this is enough. You are not the Holy Father. You are the man of perdition. You are the man of sin that sits in the temple of God, stewing himself he is God. Right? 1 Thessalonians 2. Why did Napoleon arrest the popes?
According to Wikipedia, Pius VI's body was embalmed, but was not buried until...
When did Napoleon arrest the Pope?
According to Wikipedia, in 1789, the French Revolution took place, and as a result a series of anti-clerical governments came into power in the country. In 1796, during the French Revolutionary Wars, French troops under Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Rome and captured Pope Pius VI, taking him as a prisoner to France, where he died in 1799.
So this is the end of the 1260 years, very close, because by then Europe almost had totally eradicated, and they arrested all the popes and sent them back to their country, and none would help him. It's even scriptural. But that is the end of the Dark Ages, right? But now here, Rome is getting power again. And you ask, what is climate Sabbath?
According to Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota conferences, plan a climate change Sabbath a Sunday after Easter near Earth Day or Arbor Day to unite our efforts to preserve our planet and our very way of life, food production, ecosystem and species survival, property and health preservation, protecting vulnerable populations, and to inspire action toward that goal.
Every single one of these things are in their sustainable development goals, including Sunday. And you heard that Iowa and Nebraska and all those are also coming on board of a plan, a climate change Sabbath, a Sunday, which is not God's day, Sunday. It is Sabbath, but it's going to be a form of godliness, but it is not godly. And that is the image, that climate Sunday is the image, not the mark. The mark is something totally different in your right hand and your forehead, and I've made videos and I will make one again. But what day is Climate Sunday?
According to Google Arts and Culture, on the 5th of September we celebrated the tremendous achievement of the collective action of churches, bringing together voices from a huge range of traditions, denominations and backgrounds to pray and worship in the heart of Glasgow, the home of COP26.
COP26, they want a lot, and they have an agenda 2030. This Sunday is coming in, and people have really no idea, right? And they will worship the beast. They will worship, it's all about, they will worship the beast, and it is just interesting. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm already at 22 minutes, but I just want to show a little bit of the history of the church, and show what it all is. Yeah.